Hi everyone, just wanted to share a few things from last week, from the week to come, and then also some of our quiz questions. So last week we talked about building product and service offerings, kind of a pipeline for that, innovation in your organization, how you manage those items. Also spoke about branding, so branding is an important piece, and then also the product life cycle and some aspects associated with that. So the one thing I would ask, and we'll spend some time on the quiz, so I'm not going to spend a bunch of time here in the classroom. You guys know what work you did. As you're seeing these things, so for example, this week, or this past week in week 5, we talked about those product offerings and branding and the life cycle. Think about that and then apply it to your project that you're doing for next week, for week 7, your final marketing plan project. How does branding play a role in that? Where is your product in the life cycle? Is it a new product, so it's at the beginning, or is it something that's more mature and you're attempting to revive it, or to give more thought toward it, or to drive new patients toward it, etc. So just be aware as we're working through the classroom, and start to think about applying these pieces of info that we receive from our readings and from our assignments. How do we apply that to our project for the end of the course? So in week 6, we're talking about pricing, and one of the questions that often comes up in a study in healthcare of marketing is, why is pricing part of this? What does pricing have to do with marketing? And I think that hopefully you'll get a good picture of that as we do our written assignment for the week. But the way we price something in the healthcare setting can really make us look like a Walmart or like a Lexus dealer. And sometimes organizations are providing Walmart services at Lexus prices, and then sometimes the other way around. So we really need to be cognizant of what pricing looks like to our patients overall with regard to the services that we provide. So this is why marketing has a kind of a seat at the table with regard to pricing strategies, and understanding how the pricing in an organization will impact the client overall. So we have a discussion that we're going to have about marketing. There is a second ed puzzle this week. It's actually a day in the life interview that Dr. Hampy had done a while ago, and it is with the gentleman who is the Director of PR and Marketing at St. Clair Hospital. So hopefully that'll be interesting for you. I know that Dr. Hampy reports that students love the day in the life interview. So we had a good one that met the needs in this class, and hopefully you'll enjoy that assignment. So for our writing assignment this week, we're going to be looking at kind of the fine line between what your textbook tells you about pricing, and how we we balance pricing with appropriate financial decisions in the organization. And I think we've probably progressed most of you past this thought, but I know that when I teach HSAM 1275, which is our first class in the program, I get a lot of answers like, well, why can't we just provide healthcare for free for everybody? And why do people end up in these predicaments where they don't have the money to pay for care, and they get sicker or they die because they can't access care? And those are all very legitimate things to talk about, but hopefully by this point in the program, you're seeing why that's the case. In our current system, it's very much a capitalistic system. So in order to keep the doors open for our hospitals and our healthcare our physician practices and other healthcare organizations, we need to charge people. So think of yourself going out to work as an administrator, a manager, or even just a staff person, staff nurse, or clinician in the organization. You're not going to do it for free. So somebody's got to pay your salary, and therefore somebody needs to pay for the services that are ongoing. There are certainly, and we've had discussions in other classes about some of the real ways that we could provide more services from a governmental level, more socialized medicine systems. But until we shift our current system to something looking something different than it does, those systems just won't work here. So we need to have physicians that aren't used to making $1 million a year, and not all physicians make $1 million a year, but some do. And so those folks are going to would need to find a role in the new system where they would be paid a salary from, from the government or from a government contracted organization. So it's just a very different look at the way pricing occurs and the way that an organization operates. So not to quash people's thoughts of a socialized medicine system, it's obviously doable. It's just going to take a lot of change in our system. So the purpose of that of the paper is for you to take a look at the balance between what like I said, what the textbook says about pricing and how we price properly and whatnot, and then on the flip side, issues related to kind of price gouging, predatory pricing, those types of things. So we have an article, this top article here from the New Yorker is an article by Atul Gawande, Dr. Gawande. You've certainly read Dr. Gawande in my classes in the past because he's a favorite of mine, a brilliant healthcare mind and a brilliant surgeon also. But he is actually, it's interesting, he's on faculty at Harvard, but he also he was leading the Berkshire Hathaway / Amazon medical push that they're doing, this program that actually has now been shut down since he left. But he was the CEO of that. He left that a short while back, and now he's been named to the Biden administration's healthcare team. So he is having a hand in some of the real things that President Biden had campaigned on, and the kinds of things that he's been talking about for years. So hopefully his article, The Price Conundrum, will give you some insight there. And then also this article, Bitter Pill, it's very likely that you've read it before in one of my classes. If you had, I don't remember if it's in 1275 or 2400, but it's in one of my classes. So if you've read it, you certainly don't need to scour it again, but you can just kind of review it and think about the things in those articles. That Bitter Pill article is about predatory pricing. It's written from a layperson's perspective, so it's written by a Time magazine author, so he's not a healthcare. It's actually amusing to read, not amusing because it's not funny at all. It's very sad, but he talks about the charge master in the hospital like it's some mythical creature, and the charge master is simply the list of charges in the hospital. It's really not nearly as mythical as he makes it sound, but the way a hospital maintains the charge master can sometimes be confusing, and I think that that's where he was getting at. But so anyway, we have those articles, and then please feel free to do research on any other articles that you would like to take a look at with regard to pricing issues and predatory pricing. And so for the purpose of this assignment, I want you to share your thoughts on how do we balance keeping the doors open, so having to charge people for services appropriately, and dealing with some of these predatory pricing issues and other overall pricing issues in our industry. So I look forward to what you have to say there. And then obviously we have a quiz and this ed puzzle as well. So let's hop over to the quiz questions for this week. So first one, in the mature stages of the product life cycle, sales promotion activity can hurt the brand's image. So our answer here is true, and the textbook talks to us a lot about the product life cycle and the 4 stages in the product life cycle. And you can think of the product life cycle like a bell curve. We use bell curves a lot in science and especially in healthcare administration, but the mature stage of that life cycle or that bell curve is when it's heading back down the right hand side of the bell, and so we're not selling as much of that product as we have been in the past for various reasons. It's getting priced out, it's getting worn out, it's other people are doing things better, lots of reasons, and that's just the nature of a product. They all go up and then come back down, and one of the things that we learned about in the text is that a lot of times brand managers or marketing managers will look to use sales promotion activity to to really pump something up. And if it's something that's in those mature stages, that sales promotion activity can actually hurt the brand's image, because it can point out where some of those inadequacies are in that mature product. So sales promotion activity can hurt the brand's image in the mature stages of the product life cycle. So next question, asking if the should be asking the consumer. I apologize. If there's a typo here, I'm sure there's a typo in the actual text, or in the text of the question itself. So asking the consumer if other products meet their needs measures which product concept. So when we are looking to develop new product offerings, we're obviously going to do a ton of research. We're going to have a great idea to start with, but then we're going to dig into that idea. Is it feasible? Can we do it financially? Let's flesh the product out a little bit more. How can we provide value? All of those types of things. And one of the things that we'll do is talk to people. We'll test our concept before we even start to build a product. And a product, keep in mind, this is healthcare. So it's not a widget or a pen or something like that, or a computer that provides slides. It could be a service. It could be a surgical procedure. It could be all sorts of things. So when we talk about asking the consumer if other products meet their needs, that's what's known as gap level. So measuring that gap level is, hey, potential consumer, what are you using now for this, to meet this need? And, do they satisfy you? Do you receive value from them? So in that case, our answer is gap level. A brand identifies the attributes of the product. And so think about brands and, kind of what a brand is. So I may drink, let's say, no, I won't say drinking. I have a Mini Cooper. That's my car. So I have a Mini Cooper. The brand is Mini. Minis are the brand of car, and they make all kinds of different cars. I just happen to have a Cooper, which is a certain model of car. So the brand identifies the attribute, or the brand does not identify the attributes of the product. In my case of a car, the model does. It's a Cooper. Whereas the brand identifies that it is a car made by Mini, which is actually a BMW product, I believe. So Minis make really tiny cars like mine. They make slightly larger cars. They make cars in between as well. So brand doesn't identify attributes of the product. It really identifies the maker or seller of the product. So our answer there was false. Branding that relies heavily on product or price is known as, and this is functional branding. So when you're thinking about a product that is something that people need, like they need to have health care, they need to have a bandage if they have a wound, or they need to go to an emergency department or an urgent care if they have an illness or injury that is an emergency to them. So branding relying on that product itself, especially in healthcare, is functional branding. Now we see functional branding in other industries, but oftentimes in healthcare it's all about branding on the product itself. And so that's when you see like MedExpress, that is their brand. And obviously they're owned by a larger company now, but that is their brand, and their function is to provide express medical services to you. Next question. Speeding up delivery is an example of which type of marketing program modification? So this is not, it's not about advertising or selling. It's really about the services that you're providing to the customer. And by speeding up those services, or speeding up that delivery, it's improving the services that customer is receiving from you. So speeding up delivery would be a service type of marketing program modification. And sometimes that's something that's needed. Maybe you find that people love the product, like Peloton, for example. People love Pelotons, but they're finding the sales of Pelotons dropping because they can't. I ordered one 6 weeks ago and I haven't received it yet, and I have about another 4 weeks to go before I get it. So they are finding that they need to improve services to get customers and maintain customers. So that's an example of that. Improving services can help improve marketing. So that's all I've got. Any questions, please just let me know. Okay, thanks so much.